welcome to BigCountryPreps.com. I'm Evan Wren, and this is our countdown to two-a-days series, our daily look at an area football team and the key questions we're going to be answering about that team on our Saturday, August 14th preseason preview here at Big Country Preps. I'm with my partner here, Dan Youngblood, via Zoom, and tonight, Dan, the topic of conversation is the Dublin Lions.
Yeah, and for the first time in a long time, we're not talking about Coach Bob Servetto when we talk about the Dublin Lions. We're talking about his longtime assistant and first-year head coach, Greg Hardcastle. So I think it's going to be a neat transition there. You've basically got a guy who's a Bob Servetto disciple taking over that job. I think you're going to see a lot of the same qualities that we really came to appreciate in Coach Servetto, in Coach Hardcastle, and I think you're going to see that same level of enthusiasm and positivity leading the Dublin Lions again. So it should be an interesting season for this team. And the good news for Coach Hardcastle is he's got a little bit of talent to work with. They've got 15 letterman returning, including 9 offensive and 6 defensive starters. So a lot of experience back from last year's 1-8 squad. And I think that they're going to be ready to take a nice step forward this year.
Yeah, there's some talented young skilled players that experienced last year that are coming back this year. I like Chris Teaton, the junior quarterback. He looked stout as a sophomore starter last year. And they've got some guys in Cooper Hubble and the Ramirez kid, Christian Ramirez, who can catch the football. They're going to put some points on the board. They have 9 starters back. And on the subject of Bob Servetto, one thing needs to be said. Now, this ball club finished 1-8 last year. But let's give Bob Servetto some credit for just being a good human being. He knew that he was going to retire, but he also knew that he was going to have a very young team last year. So you know what that guy did? He fell on his own sword. He fell on the sword for Coach Hardcastle or whoever his replacement was going to be, knowing that season was going to be a rough spot. He didn't want his successor to suffer through that and then, catch all the slings and arrows for just having a young football team. So Bob, being the great guy that he is, went ahead and in his retirement year, went through that 1-8 campaign with a very young team to lessen the pressure on his successor. Bob Servetto is just a terrific guy, and Greg Hardcastle, his disciple, takes over now with a cupboard that is not bare. They've got some people coming back, and we look for Dublin to take a step forward this year.
Definitely. And I think that, obviously Coach Servetto is a great guy. And I think that was a really kind of selfless thing he did last year. Fortunately for him, I think his legacy at Dublin was kind of cemented, and he knew that, and he understood that this was an opportunity for him to coach that young team through a tough season and kind of really lay a stronger foundation for his successor. And I think that'll be the case. I think you saw, obviously the record wasn't pretty. I think everyone knows that. Just when you go 1-8, it's not a real fun experience. However, and you touched on it, a lot of their skill guys did some nice things. They scored points last year. Chris Teaton did some very nice things at that quarterback position. He made a few mistakes that you would expect from a sophomore quarterback, but if he can clean those things up, he could quickly become one of the best quarterbacks in the area this year. And if that's the case, all of a sudden they're going to be putting up lots of points and give themselves opportunities to win games. So I think that this Dublin team is kind of an intriguing one, particularly when you look at that district where you've got a Comanche team that's very young with a new coach. Maybe you got an opportunity to win some games that you lost last year. So I'm excited to see what Coach Hardcastle can do in year one. In talking to Coach Servetto, he thinks it'll be a very seamless transition. So that'll be fun to watch. I think that anyone who thinks that this Dublin program is going to go off a cliff now that Coach Servetto is retired, I think will be surprised. I think that this Dublin team will remain competitive, and Coach Hardcastle is going to do a great job.
Oh, I think this is going to be a balanced ball club offensively. They've got some size, they've got some skill, they have an experienced quarterback now. But in the size department, being able to get that push up front with Michael Stanley, 220 pounds, Mosea Lolohia at 230, they should be able to get a push up front. And don't forget Eddie Hernandez, 6'2", 275. This is going to be one of the biggest teams in the area.
Yeah, they've got some very good size. I think offensively, I think they're going to be a very difficult team to stop. I think the big question for them will come on that defensive side of the football where they really struggled last year. And a lot of that was just because they had, in a lot of cases, young guys filling positions that they maybe weren't quite ready to fill at a varsity level. But with 6 starters returning on that side of the football, I think that those kids gained some valuable experience. And we'll just see how much they can improve, because I think that they're going to score points. I think that the win-loss record will largely be determined, in my opinion, by how much they can improve on that defensive side of the football.
All right, let's take a quick look at this schedule for Dublin, the pre-district schedule. Outside of the road date against a rebuilding De Leon team, the rest of this pre-district schedule is murder. It's a very difficult schedule. But considering the size that they've got coming back and the skills they've got coming back, this might be right in line with what Dublin needs if they're going to make a good run in the playoffs. And I think this team might be equipped to make a nice run in the playoffs. We shall see if they stay healthy anyway. But they've got Albany at home. They've got a tough date at Anson. They've got an improved Brady team on the road. And then the San Saba program, which has been, very good over the last 4 years. Maybe on the rebuilding side, but still we expect to be good. So this is a tough non-district portion.
Yeah, and I think it'll prepare them well for district. And they get a big district game right off the bat at Comanche, which I think will be a big game in that district. And then Jacksboro is obviously going to be very tough. But after that, you do have some opportunities, I think, at some younger teams. Merkel's got a new coach, so there's going to be a little bit of transition there. Eastland's going to have a lot of transition in their season finale, losing some of the players that they did that have done so many special things for them, particularly on the offensive side. So I think there are some opportunities to get some wins in district, or at least to compete. The key will be kind of surviving that non-district schedule. The one good thing is that I think a couple of those teams like Anson and San Saba may not be quite as strong as they've been in recent years. I think both will be quality football teams. They'll both be good tests, but they're not going to be maybe quite as good as the teams they faced last year. So it'll be a tough schedule. Wins will be hard to come by, but I think that this Dublin team will be better equipped than last year's was to compete in those games and maybe to pull out a few of those wins and get back to the playoffs.
Game of the year for Dublin.
I think I'm going to go right off the bat and that district opener at Comanche. If you win that one, I think it bodes very well for your chances to get into the playoffs. And if you lose it, you're not necessarily out of it, but you got Jacksboro right off the bat. If you lose your first two district games, all of a sudden maybe the tension starts mounting and those sorts of things. But fortunately, like I said, I think there are opportunities at wins in this district schedule. But if you can pick up that one at Comanche right off the bat, I think you're feeling pretty good about where you stand.
I'm having a hard time picking a game of the year for them, actually. Because the road date, and I agree with you, that road date at Comanche, if they can win that leading off district, they win that, it takes a lot of pressure off of them. But that home date with Jacksboro is going to have playoff implications. I'll tell you right now, that road date at Millsap is going to be a real challenge. That Millsap program has really taken a step forward recently. It's tough for me to pick the game of the year, but I'm going to go ahead and agree with you on this one. If they do win that Comanche date, it sure opens up a lot of possibilities for them. If they lose it, then the pressure's on. I think they're a playoff team, but you want to get a high seed, and beating Comanche on the road would really help that.
Yeah, and if you lose to Comanche, there's a good chance that you're going through that final stretch against Merkel, Millsap, and Eastland, needing at least 2 wins.
Yeah,
maybe at least 2 wins to get into the playoffs, and I think that's a tall ask just based on kind of the improvement some of those teams made. But I think this is another one of those districts that's pretty wide open. I think that I like that Jacksboro team at the top, but I think that just with what some of the other teams have lost, I think it's hard to really get a gauge on a lot of these teams. So I think Dublin may have an opportunity to be kind of a surprise, kind of and play a role in that district playoff race. I think it'll be in that regard, I think it'll be a fun season this year in Dublin.
And with that, it's just about time to wrap things up for tonight's episode of the Countdown to Two-A-Days series, the Dublin Lions. But we want to remind you that on Saturday, August the 14th, Big Country Preps will release its preseason preview, where we'll answer all the key questions about the Dublin Lions and every other team in the Big Country. Nobody in the area, no media source is going to be more thorough or more accurate about Big Country high school football. Nobody's going to beat us.
In the meantime, thank you for checking out this episode of our Countdown to Two-A-Days series, and make sure you join us again tomorrow when we will be talking about those Eastland Mavericks here at BigCountryPreps.com.